Hello everyone and welcome to a little video on Danganronpa 3. Um, if you've been following the Danganronpa series, you know that I didn't, or my Danganronpa series, you'll know that I didn't actually record any reactions to this series, largely due to copyright. I'm pretty sure, well, I mean, just reaction videos in general are a lot, heavier on copyright claims and stuff than Let's Plays, or of course there are still plenty of those. Um, yeah, so that's largely why I didn't do a reaction series to these, but I thought I'd still give you my opinions on the series anyway, and there was a little bit of ask for it too, so why not? Now, I should also preface this by saying this is not recorded back when I recorded everything else. This is recorded in, well, like, the week you're gonna see it go up. Maybe a little bit before that. No, this will probably be the week it goes up. So, yeah, I've been able to sit on these opinions for, like, 3 years? So, yeah. It's not fresh off the stove, as it were. But anyway, let's start with Side Future, because I think that's probably the more controversial side of the anime. And yeah, I kind of get why. I think a lot of the criticism lauded at, especially this side of the anime, is about how it would be so much better if it were a game. And I do and don't agree with that. I should also probably preface this by saying that I do like the anime. It's still the weakest of the like big five pillars of Danganronpa, i.e., 1, 2, Ultra Despair Girls, 3, and V3. Yeah, it is still the weakest one. I don't really think there's much contest there, but I I think it is unwarrantedly hated sometimes, or at least in certain ways. Because again, with Side Future, I do get it, especially in regards to the characters. I think a lot of the characters in this side of the anime suffer because they aren't in a game like Danganronpa. Like, free time events would really help some of these characters. I mean, we've got them all there, but like, really, who who likes half of these characters, right? Like, some of them are nice, sure. I think Great Gozu is like the perfect example of this. Like, he's a character you get sort of teased with. Like, he seems really nice and he'd be really helpful, but he dies in like the third episode. So it's like, great. Well, I'm glad we spent all this time with this guy. Of course, capital offender there is Daisaku, who gets what, like 3 lines before he dies? Like, whoop-de-doo, you know? Of course, first victims always suffer from that a little bit in Danganronpa, but without his free time events, his entire character is, oh, he looks like a big man, but he's got the voice of like a little girl. Woo! Funny. Um, and yeah, it kind of isn't. More silent characters like Iseoi also kind of suffer from this. Like, yeah, I get it. Like, his whole thing is that he's silent, but that doesn't really make him interesting. But to be honest, other than that, I kind of like all the new characters here. And yes, that does include Rueka. So I mean, just looking at obviously the image we've got on the screen, um, yeah, not like there isn't anyone I massively dislike, and I know that's quite the statement considering that this is the cast that has Tengen and Ruruka in it, but I don't know. I think maybe it's because we don't spend much time with these characters that I can't fathom that much hatred for anyone. But yeah, I don't know. The only characters I really like as well are the ones we get a lot of time with. So I think that probably plays a part in it. With the exception of Kizakura, I really like Kizakura. I think he achieves his role really well, and he's kind of the only one I was sad to see die. Like his story is really, like, for what little it is, it's quite impactful, all things considered. Um, Miaya, I mean, it's a shame we don't really get to know Miaya because she's dead before the thing starts, and oop, it was Monica the whole time. But it's I mean, she's got a good design. Let's go with that. Because I mean, yeah, as much as Miaya is a character, she also isn't because of the whole Monica thing. So really, what you're going with there is her design nice? And yeah, I like her design a lot. Daisaku, yeah, pointless. Um, Great Gozu, I mean, again, nice guy, but that's about it. He can't do anything like Daisaku. I mean, he does help Makoto in like the one episode he gets the chance to. But yeah, not much there. But then we have the Rueka, Izeoi, and Seiko trio, and I do like what they were trying to do with their story. Like, actually try and give the characters on this side character. And I know it doesn't particularly pay off in the minds of most people. And honestly, I think a lot of that rests with the fact that it's not a trio. It's Seiko and Ruruka having a massive conflict of personalities. Because he's always just there. Like, he is for the entirety of the show. He is just there. They're like, does he really, like, he fights Seiko, and he runs from Seiko, and he kind of helps Ruruka by carrying her whilst running from Seiko, but it's like, he doesn't do anything else. That's it. That's all he's got. Ruruka, okay, look, Ruruka, I'm pretty sure people hate because, like, exclusively because of her personality, and that is absolutely fine. Like, she is massively manipulative. Like, the show tries to justify why she is that way towards Seiko. You know, the whole I wanted to be you, I respected you, I looked up to you thing. And it is unfortunately kind of like weirdly human. Not specifically from Ruruka, but like this weird relationship that Ruruka and Seiko have. It is unfortunately human, where like Ruruka abuses not only the relationship she has with Seiko, but like because she's jealous of her skill, she abuses it more, and Seiko gives in because she wants to appease Ruruka because she's lonely. It's a bit of a Mikan Hiyoko dynamic taken to the extreme, and I think that's really where Ruruka is not left in a good light, like, at all. And yeah, it is certainly a flaw of the writing there, because a lot of your other asshole characters in Danganronpa have that silver lining, and I think it is largely through the free time events that you get that. I won't talk anything about V3 in this video, so I'll leave that character out. But Toko and Hiyoko both have this, like, quality to them where they aren't completely, like, irredeemably pieces of shit, you know? I, I mean, if you want to look at that, that's more the Byakuya Nagito territory. But of course, both of them, in their own rights, are redeemable. But you know, the asshole characters that I'm talking about are generally like the female ones, because there's always at least one asshole girl. And yeah, but Toko and Hiyoko have reasons for the way they are, and you kind of get that with Ruruka, but it's not explored enough, and I do think that weakens her character a little bit. Seiko, though, I mean, Seiko's good. I like Seiko's pretty good, especially by the standards of the anime. Shame she dies so early though. She's third or fourth death. Did she die before or after Tengen? I actually can't remember. I think she dies after, but yeah, I'm not so sure about that one now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, now that everyone else is everyone else is out of the way, we'll talk about who I would consider the big five of the new characters: Ryota, Munakata, Juzo, Chisa, and Tengen. Tengen is, yeah, he's pretty underwhelming. Like he's not offensively bad. He's just really, really underwhelming. I mean, his fight with Munakata is really cool. Like it's quite nicely animated. It's a shame we don't see all of it, probably for budgetary reasons. But I mean, other than that, he doesn't really have much going on. You know, it is kind of nice in this, like the future side, to have this cast of not just teenagers. Like pretty much everyone is an adult. You know, I'm pretty sure Daisaku and Gozu are older than most of these guys. Tengen is obviously an old man. Like it is quite nice to see this, just for the sake of variety. But again, that's like a minor luxury that Tengen has, because otherwise he's pretty dull. And like the twist of him being the mastermind, it does make sense, but it's still just pretty underwhelming. Because honestly, yeah, we'll get into it in a second, but the story, I think, is the weakest part of Future. And it's probably worsened by the fact that the characters aren't that great, and this is a character-driven story. Well, Danganronpa is a character-driven story, but it doesn't quite... This show doesn't quite do it, you know? Like, some of them are good, but most of them are just they are there. Meteor. We'll talk about Meteor next. I actually do like Meteor quite a lot. And I think most of that can be attributed to his appearance in Side Despair rather than Side Future. Yeah. That, I mean, that's what else can I say, you know? Like, he's likable, I guess, is the thing I want to go with here. He kind of falls into the Chiaki trap for me, of like he's got one personality trait and that's his entire character. It makes him likable, like his insecurity, but like it's not much more complicated than that. Still, I do like Meteor, especially his relationship with the imposter, but I mean, like, he hasn't got too much going on. Unlike the main three! Well, not the main three, but if this were to be a Danganronpa game, these three would be the main three. Munakata, Chisa, and Juzo. Again, Juzo and Chisa specifically, I think are heightened quite a lot by their appearance in the Despair arc. And I do think that's why Munakata is... yeah, he's the weakest of the three. I still like Munakata, but, like, if I were to rank the characters that I actually like in this show, like, beyond just, he'd be at the bottom. No contest, he'd be at the bottom. It's nice to see an ideology contrast Makoto's that isn't hoo despair. And I think that's Munakata's strongest point, like, as a character and a device in the narrative. And he is quite threatening throughout the whole thing, so he does achieve what his purpose is in the show. But, I don't know, I wish we had more, which is sort of the sentiment for this entire show. I wish we had more. And more is what we get with Juzo and Chisa. Chisa, of course, as the first person to die in the Future arc, gets nothing here. But in Despair, she gets quite a lot. Once again, I think she's a bit of a Ryota/Chiaki, that she kind of just has one personality trait, and it makes her really likable. but I really like Chisa. I think she does it better than Chiaki and Ryota. I like maybe it's because her personality trait is about being like peppy and a good teacher rather than just I am nice or I am insecure. Like I don't know, I guess I just find it a more appealing type of personality. So it's sort of like how Ibuki is, you know? There's nothing too complex going on with Ibuki, but she's likable because she's peppy and she's a mood maker, which is kind of the same thing that Chisa is, but she's a lot more grounded, and I think that's why I like her. Yeah, I don't really have much else to say about her, but Juzo, I think Juzo is probably the best character from the show. Like, again, he's not too complicated. So yeah, like, Juzo isn't too complicated, but he's complicated enough. Like, his relationship with Munakata, his relationship with Junko, why that makes him oppose Makoto. Like, I think it's good enough. Well, no, I think that's underselling him. Like, he's pretty good, as far as the characters, especially in the anime, go. It's just, like, I don't know. I guess I just again wish there was more because we definitely get enough of Juzo, but yeah, like there is a degree of like I wish we could have more, like in a free time setting. Again, like everything that about Juzo really works in this show. I think like he's really good up to his final sacrifice at the end, like saving Makoto and turning the power off. Like all of it's really good. But I wish we got to know him more, you know? Because certainly his actions speak for themselves in a lot of ways, and he is certainly the sort of actions speak louder than words kind of guy. But yeah, I do. Like, maybe it's because I like him so much that I wish we got more of him. But yeah, it's just the fault of an anime like this. But on that topic of like this anime would be better as a game, I as it is, I completely disagree. Like the anime as it is, how it was written and how the story plays out on both sides would not be better as a game because they wouldn't be interesting. They would just be visual novels. In fact, no, they would just be light novels. And while the light novels work, you know, I've praised both Danganronpa, Ultra Despair Girls, Hagakure, and Danganronpa If in the past. I don't think it would work particularly well with what we've been set up here. If it were a visual novel, I think Side Despair could work quite well. But I don't think, as it is, Future would be a good game. I like there's too much action. Like the idea of the bracelets, I don't think hold as much weight when you can't see them all the time. Like in Ultra Despair Girls, for example, where they had the bracelet things, like they were never a threat. Sure, like you see Yuta blow up, but because you only see Komaru with it and it kind of just is there as part of her character, you just forget about it and it has no real weight. And I think it would be the same in Side Future if it was a visual novel. Or even like an action game like Ultra Despair Girls. I just don't think it would have that sort of drama, I guess is the word. Suspense, maybe. But yeah, no, I don't think what we have here would work particularly well as a game. It would also be really short, for the record. Like, I'm not sure it would warrant a full game, but I mean, maybe that's just because the anime is short, you know? But to just round this off with the characters, the four returning ones, who are, well, I mean, technically all of the characters return from Danganronpa 1 in this show. But the four who are actually, like, central to it, Makoto, Hina, Kyoko, and Hiro, they're fine. I mean, Hiro's just there for a little bit of comic relief outside, and, like, that's fine. He doesn't do anything, but, you know, it's funny, so he does his purpose. Hina is also fine. Like, again, if you've been following me with Danganronpa, you'll know that I'm not Hina's biggest fan. I don't dislike her, but she's kind of just there for me. And it's kind of the same here. I like that she's a little more involved because of Makoto's forbidden action. Like, and it is quite funny to see her carrying him around everywhere he goes. But, I mean, other than that, I feel like Hina doesn't contribute too much to this show. I get, I don't know, almost as if it would have been better for the show if she died during that fake out death, but yeah, I don't want Hina to die. So, yeah. Now, on the matter of the fake out deaths, because, you know, I'll talk about Kyoko in a second as well, I've said this before as well, I actually don't have too much of a problem with Kyoko's, and I'll get into that a little bit later because of, well, there's a strength of this show that I would like to discuss. But with Hina, I think Hina's fake out death would have been much more acceptable if it were not placed at the end of an episode. Like, if it was instead at the halfway point, you know, when the ad break rolls in. Like, I think that would have been a much better place to put it. Because it does totally fit, because Monica sets it up and all. Like, it totally works as, like, a little prank from her. But it leaves a bad taste in the mouths of audiences when, you know, you're so thoroughly baited like that for no reason. Because wouldn't, like, the way I see it, maybe even if you just pushed it towards the end, and then you end that episode with Gozu's death, right? Like, you think it's going to be the end of the episode, and it's going to end on Hina's death. But then she wakes up, and it's all fine. But then you turn around, and you see that Gozu's dead. Like, that probably would have been a much better ending to that episode, you know? Because, like, it's both allays your fears that someone's going to die, because it's just, oh, we just got fake outed. You got us, Danganronpa. But then, you know, you turn around and end the episode and, oh shit, Gozu's dead. I think that would have made for a much better ending to that episode, rather than starting the next episode with it. Yeah, Kyoko, though, I do think Kyoko is used pretty well in this show. You know, I've seen the Japanese popularity poll. I know she's, like, second on there for this show. And I think that's deserved, mainly because I think the strength of this show is kind of in its visual storytelling of the mystery. I think it does that really well. Because you can solve the mysteries with Kyoko. As long as you pick up on what she's looking at, you can kind of tell what she's thinking and figure it out from there. Of course, the first one being when she goes to feel the wall right at the start, and it's like the weapon that was thrown into it is missing, as is the hole in the wall that it would have left. Like, that's one right at the beginning. Of course, she picks up Seiko's medicine when she finds her body. That's, of course, to do with the fake out death plot twist. But like, yeah, those are just two examples of things that Kyoko is used to foreshadow, and like, that's quite nice. Of course, there are also other elements that Kyoko doesn't necessarily figure out, but that you can see. I think the fact that everyone who dies because of the suicide video that they're shown, in every single one of those cases, you can see the monitor either in the shot or the light of it being shone on the characters. And I think that's a really nice detail, because, like, yeah, on first viewing, it's like, ooh, red lighting, ooh, makes it even more ominous, I guess. But no, it's because, you know, the monitors are obviously the thing that makes people kill themselves in this show. Like that, I think that's a really nice detail, and I think it's nice that you can figure that out. I've also heard that people have figured out the whole twist from that one moment when Tengen's speaking and they just lip read him. That seems absolute bullshit, but I mean, I can't disprove that, so yeah, I guess. But yeah, okay, that seems like a bit of a stretch to me that some people figured out the twists based on some lip reading of, you know, an animated character. But sure, go ahead, guys, I guess. Yeah, no, like Kyoko as a character I think is also quite good in this show, like especially in regards to her relationship with Makoto. And I don't just mean that from like a shipping perspective. Like I do enjoy their friendship here. You know, of course, the go-to one there is in the episode where she pulls the fake out death. When she's walking with Ryota and she's saying that, oh yeah, Makoto's actually a pretty cool guy, you know, blah, 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 blah. Like that's a nice scene. And, you know, the following one where she takes off her gloves and tells him that, you know, no matter what, she'll always be on his side and shit. Like she'll always be with him and stuff. Yeah, like I think it's I think she's used quite well, and she deserves the popularity that she gets in this series. Makoto, I mean, he sure is still Makoto. Like, what do you want me to say? He's Makoto. He is protagonist boy. Like, yeah, like he's fine. I really have nothing to say about Makoto. He is just Makoto. If you like Makoto, well, this show's got more Makoto. If you're like most people and you're just like, yeah, okay, Makoto, then you know, he's just there. He sure is the protagonist. But it is nice to see him a little more mature here. He's got like a slightly wider range of emotions too. I think Makoto's he's not bad. He's not bad in this show by any means. He's just Makoto. I think I would be remiss before moving on if I didn't talk about the Ultra Despair Girls episode. And a lot of people think that that episode is very underwhelming, and I do kind of agree. But also, you know, Ultra Despair Girls has always been marketed as the spin-off, the one that's not that important. And you should know, well, you should probably know that most people, especially Let's Players, end up skipping Ultra Despair Girls anyway, don't they? So, like, can you blame the Danganronpa team for not really putting too much emphasis on Ultra Despair Girls? Like, I'm kind of torn on it. I would have loved for more, but it's a spin-off game that apparently not many people actually play or have played. So, like, you kind of can't have that be an integral part of the story. Which, yeah, it shoots the whole Monica plotline in the foot, unfortunately, which, again, is a real shame because Monica is, V3 included, my favorite antagonist in the series. I hands down think she's the best one, but you know. Also, people don't like the whole Monica giving up thing, and I don't think that that's really a problem with the writing of the show. I think that just works. It's like, you gotta remember, she's an actual child. She's like 12 years old at most. Like, she is going to have a moody phase with like the shitty fucking ideology that is integral to her character. It's like, this is boring. Can't be asked anymore. And you know what? Hanging out with Nagito for any extended period of time would absolutely make me sick of hope and despair as a concept too. I mean, not to say that he did do that single-handedly, because he didn't do it single-handedly for me. Junko played a huge part in that too, which is probably what happened to Monica, to be honest. Yeah, no, looks like Toko and Kamaru in that episode are pretty good. They're well used, they're in character. their friendship still on show with their hugs and shit and holding hands and stuff. The usual biz. But, like, yeah, I think Monica ranges in people's estimations of, like, I mean, that's cool, I guess, to why would you bastardize this character this way? And, like, yeah, I don't know, I think it's fine. I don't have a huge problem with it. So yeah, I think that's it for Side Future. Like, it's fine. And this is the main part of the video. I don't think I'm gonna say as much about anything else in this show. It's like, this is the big one, right? This is the big one that people take issue with. And I totally get it. I think this is one of the weaker parts of the show too. But it has its strengths, I think. As for Side Despair, though, for the most part, this is just super vanilla, normal stuff. Like, it is kind of nice to see some of the stuff that was talked about in Danganronpa 2 happening with these guys, but otherwise, it kind of almost feels slice of lifey, like episode by episode, which is fine, like right until the end. But to me personally, I find this arc kind of boring in a lot of ways. Obviously, it doesn't help that I'm not the biggest fan of Danganronpa 2, as you probably know. So, like, this story just naturally doesn't quite grab my interest as much. And, yeah, look, okay. The big controversy with this one is the retconning of certain events. And, okay, look, I'm gonna be real with you. I, one, don't consider any of the changes made to be retcons. And two, I don't think they're really that big a deal. Of course, Twilight Syndrome is probably, like, the Twilight Syndrome events are one of the most notable ones. And honestly, I don't think it's a problem that the events are changed. Like, at all. I've said this over and over and over and over and over again. Junko lies a lot. A lot of the shit she says is just straight up bullshit. And it really shouldn't come as a surprise to any of you that stuff that she says happens never happened. Because, like, come on, guys. Junko's not a threatening villain in the sense that, oh, look at all this power she has. It's kind of the fact that she takes power away from people in the form of memories, and therefore you can only believe what she tells you. And of course, it helps that Junko herself is quite intelligent, so she's good at that. But, like, Junko herself has no power. Like, Junko sucks, is what I'm trying to say. She's no Mukuro, and she's no Izuru. And I guess that's another one. The Izuru story arc, like with Chiaki. I actually quite like it. The choice to make Chiaki real, I do think, is a misstep, but, we've got to work with what we were actually given here. And what we were given, I think, is pretty alright. Like, even, I know some people criticize the episode with Chiaki's death in it, but I actually think it's quite good for, like, this whole first taste of despair sort of thing. Like, I think it's done quite well. Chiaki's prolonged suffering is really hard to watch. Even as someone who doesn't particularly like Chiaki, it is really hard to watch. And that final scene with her and Izuru, it hurts. It hurts a lot. And it is all because of that struggle to live. It's really painful. Like, really, really painful. And I like, some people think it's cheap or it's so over dramatic that it loses its value, but I disagree with that. I think it works because it's overly dramatic. I mean, have you played Danganronpa? You do know what franchise you're talking about here, right? Like, there is nothing that is toned down in Danganronpa. So, it fits perfectly. And, I mean, seeing Izuru have any emotion at all is also quite nice. Yeah. honestly, that's about it with Side Despair. It sure is okay. I know some people like it, some people don't. I've said my piece on the weird Mikan stuff many a time in my Danganronpa 2 free time episodes. But I mean, other than that, what really happens? Oh, right. Of course, the other big one of Junko not corrupting everyone in this class individually. She does it as a group through, like, hypnosis and shit. And I know a lot of people don't like that, but honestly, that's kind of the only thing that makes sense, isn't it? Because obviously, Junko obviously uses a lot of, like, neurology and shit. Well, you know, the Danganronpa's fantasy neurology because of Yasuke. But like, why would Junko do it on an individual basis? I already thought it was fucking ridiculous that she'd go around and corrupt specific people from, oh, I don't know, the same class when she has this power to, like, pretty much do anything in terms of brain shit that she's already shown in Danganronpa 1. Like, when you can just take away memories, like, why not just do that with these guys? Of course, that's not what she does in the end, but, you know, basically what I'm saying is going around and individually corrupting people makes no sense. It doesn't at all. And, like, I get it, it's more compelling that way, because it's edgy as fuck, and, you know, to play on your fears and corrupt you that way, and apparently Danganronpa fans only like edgy bullshit, but it just makes absolutely no sense, and there are a bunch of people that I just cannot believe would turn. Like Ibuki, I know she's lonely, but that wouldn't push her to despair, like on the level of mass genocide. Same with Nagito and, like, Nekomaru, and Akane's too fucking dumb to get it. I don't really imagine that Gundam would, or Sonya. Like, circumstantially, Mihiru and Hiyoko. Like, Hyoko's already had a bad life, and she's still pretty normal. Well, yeah, debatably. But, like, I just don't see it. And on top of that, if she went around and specifically chose people, you'd think she'd choose people who have useful talents for destroying the world. Why, in any universe, would you decide that the ultimate traditional dancer is going to be a valuable asset to your army of mass genocide? Why? In what world? Please! Like, sure, you can twist some of them, right? Like Ultimate Chef. Ooh! He's skilled with knives, I guess. Ultimate Photographer? Well, I guess she could be a bit of a journalist and publicize it, I guess. But, like, Gundam's an ultimate breeder? What's he gonna do? Create eldritch abominations? Okay, that's not how breeding works. Like, look, basically all I'm saying is the original way from Danganronpa 2 is dumber than the one used in Danganronpa 3, and that's why I don't have a problem with it. And yeah, I think that about wraps up Side Despair. Yeah, I really don't have anything else to say about this one. I find Side Despair less interesting than Side Future, to be honest. How about that Hope ending, though? I actually quite like it. I like the episode. Yeah, everyone from Danganronpa 2 coming back, and the rebuilding of Hope's Peak to be a better school and whatnot. I think it's a nice ending. It's not, like, fantastic, like groundbreaking or anything, but it's nice. And I think a lot of people criticize it for just being too happy. And, like, really? Really? I know you like your edgy bullshit, but come on. All the happy stuff, quote unquote, was pretty heavily foreshadowed in fan favorite game, Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair. Like, come on, you didn't really think they'd leave the possibility for everyone coming back and not take it, would you? Like, really? And as for the Kyoko coming back stuff, like, we already saw the whole medicine thing. And I don't know if this is actually true or not, but when I first watched the show, I was kind of skeptical of it because I didn't actually think her, like, the poison wound was as bad as what we saw on, say, Daisaku or Kizukura. Again, I don't actually know if that's true or not. Because, like, I've rewatched the show a couple of times, and it's like, yes and no. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Tell me if I'm right or wrong, I get in the comments, I guess. But I don't know. I was always skeptical of it anyway, from, like, the evidence we were given in the show, which is probably why I didn't have a problem with it anyway. Like, you know, I knew that medicine that she picked up from Seiko was going to do something, and then it didn't do anything, so, you know, I suspected it might play a part in the Hope episode. But yeah, I mean, it's nice, and I do like that it's the, you know, Danganronpa 2 cast that reach out to Ryota instead of Makoto. I mean, I know he doesn't actually spend, like, any time with the characters in Despair, but he does spend time with the imposter, and he does have a very nice moment with him at the end. And, like, it feels right, okay? It feels right. And considering how guilty Ryota was about the whole thing, and these were the people he fucked over, you know, who were still alive and he can repent towards, it makes sense. It makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to say, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's it for Danganronpa 3. I'm sure there are stuff that I've missed, you know, there is sort of like the general consensus that the show bastardizes some characters, like Mukuro, Mikan, Chiaki, and I kind of have to say no, especially with Mukuro, right? Like, people are like, oh no, Mukuro, she's doing bad things, but like, yeah, obviously. Just because she's a redeemable person doesn't mean she hasn't also caused the end of the world. She says herself that she has killed a lot of people for Junko. Like, she wouldn't be a threatening figure either if we didn't see her, you know, doing her job. And sure, like, it is unfortunate that Mikan is the one who's chosen to showcase despair up front, but like, I mean, it had to be someone. It's Jay. Look, I just didn't like the fan service angle they took with it. Like, why? Why would you do that? And why would you have the abused character get abused more? Like, make Junko even more unlikable, I guess? But she abuses Mukuro enough. Like, why? Why do more? Yeah, and then Chiaki, of course. I mean, look, this show just really exemplifies the problem with Chiaki only having the character trait of I am nice. Because that's the only character trait she has in this show as well, but she's got to be one of the leads. Like, more so than in Danganronpa 2, because Hajime isn't really the lead here. So, you know, I think it should just be a show to other people that Chiaki isn't that great. Like, sorry, guys. I know a lot of people, she's a fan favorite, but I don't think she's that good, and I think this show really hammers home why she doesn't work that well. Yeah. You know what? Actually, fuck it. Let's talk about Danganronpa 2.5 for half a minute. Because there's nowhere else I'm going to talk about this. I didn't watch it until after I finished all of V3, like bonus stuff included, so I wouldn't do a video on this otherwise. I actually really like the special. It wasn't until then that I actually started to like Nagito. And it's almost entirely for that, like, final 5 seconds. You know, the bit at the end where he comes out and he hugs Kazuichi and Fuyuhiko and he has the "at least it wasn't a bad dream" line. Like, that humanizes Nagito in a way that he was never humanized before in, you know, Side Despair, the Hope episode, or Danganronpa 2. Because otherwise, Nagito is just this fucking insane madman who isn't a character, he's a personified ideology. Like, it really wasn't until this special that I felt Nagito was a person. And I really like that it did that. I was surprised that an anime product from Danganronpa could make a character even better than they were before. I mean, of course, I think it doesn't do that with the imposter to a certain degree, but Nagito, a well-established character who is already very well liked, getting more? I appreciate it. I really do. But other than that, I mean, the special's good. Like, the OVA, even. It's good. Other than that, Nagito really steals the show there. Like, his relationship with everyone else, how he perceives his relationship with everyone else, and everyone else's relationships with each other. It's also a really nice look into Nagito's head outside of his hope, despair, luck ideology. So yeah, I mean, I like it. It goes into his ideas on talent a bit more, too. So, yeah, I did actually quite like that OVA. But yeah, that's where we'll end it, I guess. I'm sure, again, there are things that I didn't talk about that you might have wanted me to talk about. And as such, just leave some questions in the comments if you want those answered, or my thoughts on other things that happened that I didn't discuss. Yeah. I mean, let's not keep it going any longer. This is the end of the Hope's Peak arc, I guess, as far as my content is concerned. And, well, I'm going to post this on a Sunday, so for you guys, tomorrow is going to be the start of V3. I hope you're excited for that. I certainly was when I played it. Yeah. I hope you enjoy what's to come, because we're nearly done. Unfortunately, I do so love Danganronpa, but it's nearly over for you guys, and, well, I mean, it's been over for me for a few years, but, yeah. I'll see you guys then. And until then, goodbye!